Kel, and I'd like to talk a little bit about an architect named Antoni Gaudi. Over spring break, I was lucky enough to be able to travel to Barcelona, where I was able to see some of the most amazing sights and have some great experiences. And among those were being able to witness some of the works of Antoni Gaudi. Today, I'd like to share a little bit about the architect, some of his works I was able to visit, and just a brief history of the man himself. Born in 1852, Antoni Gaudi was inflicted with illness during his youth and found himself spending time drawing and analyzing nature rather than playing outside with other children. This later shaped him and his creative genius as the most well known architect from Barcelona. Even though he was considered part of Barcelona's Modernisme movement, which is different from modernism, his style was influenced from Neo Gothic, Moorish, Art Nouveau, and Far Eastern styles of architecture. Yet nature always remained his main influence. Casa Vicens from 1885 was the very first home that Gaudi ever designed. As you can see, he is already an extremely expressive designer, taking influence from nature, Moorish architecture, and Oriental design to create a very vibrant and unique home. The home breaks away from tradition with its vibrant colors and use of floral tiles, as well as its lack of symmetry and interesting forms, which adds more dynamism to the design. The use of contrasting colors and sharp edges next to organic forms also adds to the experience. Casa Batlló from 1904 to 1906. Casa Batlló was a renovation of an already standing building that exemplifies Gaudi's style when he was more experienced and more expressive than before. The home is described as not having any straight lines, which is characteristic of his later works. It is also known as the House of Bones, as the structure is visibly and functionally very anatomical. In the interior, he works with very organic shapes, doors, walls, and ceilings that are all referential to nature, including this mushroom shaped fireplace pictured here. The organic approach to this design was not only an aesthetic decision, but also was used in providing natural lighting and ventilation through the home that was far ahead of his time. Casa Batlló was as much experiential design as it was architectural. Casa Mila, 1906 through 1912. Casa Mila is one of the most abstract pieces of architecture from Gaudi. The front face of the building is an array of smoothly carved walls of solid limestone to give the building these curves that are asymmetrical without any straight or sharp lines. The building is as organic as it can possibly get and looks as if it was a natural occurrence of erosion. The building has a free floor plan which allows freedom for the ways that the walls are positioned in the building due to the structural integrity of the building itself, thanks to the columns and load-bearing walls at the core and perimeter. The rooftop terrace of the building is one of the more interesting parts, as it consists of a wavy sort of structure and is accompanied with very uniquely and abstractly designed chimneys and ventilation structures that are both an artistic and functional part of the building, further pushing the narrative of art and functionality as a symbiotic relationship. Lastly, I was able to visit La Sagrada Familia and tour this great work. The building is one that he had been working on since the year 1883 and continued working on until his death in 1926. He decided in the year 1911 to devote the rest of his life to this development of this building, as he was heavily devoted to his religion, which gave him the name God's Architect. The building is designed to have 18 towers, the tallest being for Jesus, the next tallest for the Madonna, the next four representing the evangelists, and lastly 12 lower towers, one for each of his apostles. There are three facades, which are the Nativity facade, the Passion facade, and the Glory facade. This building is by far his most involved and creative work, using multiple architectural styles and innovative and intuitive calculation techniques, in order to have the supports of the building still be curved and organic to further push his style, as well as the building's structural integrity. He designed the interior of the building to have tree-like supports that branch outward to offer complex load-bearing columns that use natural curvature to hold up the building, creating a forest-like atmosphere. The building is also located equidistant between the sea and the mountains to symbolize the church as a connection between the divine and earthly matter. Gaudi was heavily devoted to this project, and went as far as funding the building personally and asking people to help fund his vision, whether they were serious investors or just people on the street. He stopped keeping up with his appearance and even lived on the site of the building, so when he was out in public, he was often mistook for a beggar, which is exactly what happened when he was fatally struck with a tram car in 1926. There was no sense of urgency to get him to a hospital, and when they did, it was already too late. recognizing who he was a whole day later. Gaudi was only able to see 20% of the building's full construction through, and his vision has been carried on by many talented craftsmen and architects, using whatever old models or documents they can get their hands on to make this happen, as well as using modern technology and manufacturing methods. The building is set to finish on the 100th anniversary of Gaudi's passing in the year 2026. Antoni Gaudi's legacy is one that is now identified in conjunction with the city of Barcelona and Catalan Modernisme architecture. He has many other very famous works that I unfortunately didn't get to visit, such as Parc Güell, Palau Güell, Casa Calvet, the Church of Colonia Güell, and the Torre de Bellasgard. But I am glad I was able to see the buildings I did get to see. I think we can all learn something from his approach to design, and I encourage everyone to look into his works. Thank you, everybody, and let's all have a great summer.